Hello and welcome to the final episode of Dylan Knows for September. It's 11:37 p.m. on September 30th, Saturday night. And this has been one of the craziest weeks for news and information that I've ever seen in a long time. And I'm extraordinarily excited to do tonight's episode. A ton of stuff to cover. Taylor Swift, major deaths, Baltimore Orioles, what else is there? Government shutdowns, WGA, the Writers Guild strike, fraud in New York, Argyle. My cousin knows the person who's been in space the longest ever, the Golden Bachelor, Tupac Shakur's murderer found. Kevin Bacon thought the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game was making fun of him. New Dick Tracy, some Hellboy news, Mick Jagger's on the episode, Halloween, pumpkins, October, because October 1st hits in about 22 minutes. So that's why I'm wearing my Stranger Things Halloween stuff, because I adore Halloween and October and all that stuff. Trailers galore. Netflix went absolutely crazy with the trailers this week. Jamie Lee Curtis and One Piece, Wyoming dinosaurs, do aliens eat people, Spanish Zorro, XFL and USFL announced something interesting, skeletons, Studio Ghibli dating, Harvest Supermoon, October, Friday the 13th, Doctor Who trailers, Coen Brothers, Burial, smashing my finger, and drinking some Mountain Dew Voodoo. I finally found it. It is officially out in grocery stores right now. For those that don't know, Voodoo is Mountain Dew's mystery flavor Halloween event. Every year it's a different flavor, and it's usually a candy of some kind. Hearing lots of stories that this is cherry airheads, so this will probably less than this, but I finally found this. I got a 12-pack upstairs. My son drank one today. He absolutely loved it. I haven't tried this yet because I want to wait for her to do the show. So as always, let me try this. Now, I thought my refrigerator was working good, and now it's not working good again, which pisses me off. So here we go. Smells like Mountain Dew here, so let's take a swig here. Yep, very cherry. Actually, a really good cherry flavor. Because it's not a strong cherry flavor. It's actually a really good cherry flavor. Oh, I like this one a lot. Yes, it's definitely a cherry flavored something. I guess Airheads, is a good guess because it is a candy. Oh, that's so good. Oh my God, that is so good. So glad about the 12-pack. Oh my God, it is so good. So definitely this year's is definitely a cherryish flavor to it, but it's not an overwhelmingly strong cherry flavor. There's something else in there which adds that extra dimension to it, makes it taste fantastic. Glad I got the 12-pack. I'm enjoying that. So Mountain Dew Voodoo for 2023 is definitely worth it if you're a cherry fanatic. It's great. They also had the Gatorade mystery flavor. Haven't tried that one yet, so I'll try that one sometime. I don't know if I'm going to wait a full week to do a reveal like I did this one, because what I've heard from people who have reviewed the mystery flavor, it really doesn't taste like anything other than Gatorade. So I don't know. Damn, that's good stuff. So yes, I've been salivating at the moment trying to get to this episode, and I'm just going to see if there's any other news. Seems like prom is going everywhere except in Baltimore County, which we don't have going on. So yeah, nothing exciting going on. So all kinds of crazy ass stuff going on here. So it's been an outstanding week ending September. Temperature's getting warm again. Supposedly it's only going to be warm this week. It's going to drop up to about 80 to 81 up here is the highest, like on Wednesday, Thursday. But then I was looking at next weekend, 60 degrees and 61 as a high. I'm like, yes, that's what I want. That's October. That's Halloween. So this week coming up, is my 20th wedding anniversary. So that's coming up on Wednesday. So my wife and I are going to go out to eat, and that's really probably the extent of stuff. I bought her some stuff, nothing major because we're not big celebrators of stuff. It is a good milestone. Yes, it's great, but it's just we might take a trip down the line somewhere, just two of us. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that happens this week, and yeah, it's October though, and I'm extraordinarily jazzed. We finally got here. So now we're in the final stretch here of the year. We've got Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Boom, 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 all back to back. So we're in for quite a treat here. The temperature is going to start getting colder. The trees are going to start changing. There have been some color changes here in some of the trees around here, but not nearly as much as we're expecting here soon. So here we go. But let's get into this. This episode is absolutely insane. And just a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5 full pages of notes. So let's get busy. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to try. Actually, first, I'm going to back that up. The one big news story that was supposed to happen this week was the goddamn MAGA GOP Republicans were threatening to shut down the U.S. government again so that their Lord and Master was declaring them that they should, due to his Lord and Master, the Russian dictator Putin, who's attacking Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. And these morons believe that he's the second coming along with their God King, even though they claim to be devout Christians, which is a bunch of bullshit. Anyway, they're trying to shut down the government. They threatened the weakest Speaker of the House we've ever had, Chris McCarthy, with, since in order to get the position of Speaker of the House, he had to make concessions to them. And one of those concessions was having a minimum amount of votes to remove a Speaker of the House. So he gave them that, and now they're threatening to use that against him if the government doesn't shut down, which would put a lot of strain on millions of people in your districts, for God's sakes. And the Democrats have been trying as hard as they can to stop it, but this is not a Democrat's fault. In fact, there was a deal set in place way back in May that for whatever reason was never implemented, which I don't quite understand how that came to be, because it passed both the House and the Senate. So I don't understand why it didn't get to Biden to sign it. So I don't know. President Biden to get to sign it. So I don't know. Regardless, so tonight would have been the last night. If there was no agreement made in 15 minutes, the government would shut down and federal workers would not get any paychecks. Federal programs would not get any money, and it would be a complete and utter clusterfuck that would ruin people's lives. But that's what the MAGA Republican GOPs like to do. They're not here to help their constituents. They're here to stay in power and make lots of money and feel special, even though they're a bunch of cockeyed, pussy-ass bitches, shit-headed dick faces. Excuse my language, but there's more cool stuff. So if you came here for Taylor Swift, please stay on the line. We'll be talking about Taylor Swift plenty in this episode. So just give me a few minutes to get this off my chest. Regardless, the government has not shut down. A last-minute resolution was passed today, keeping it open for 45 days, which means we're going to go through all this again in mid-November, right before Thanksgiving. So it's a Band-Aid, but it's not the final issue. So it gives us time to work out why this compromise that was passed didn't get put in place. So I don't know what's going on, but everything was removed that the maggots wanted to have that was going to ruin our lives, and not just those who work for the federal government if their budget didn't pass. But we got everything that we wanted, except for Ukraine funding got taken out, but that was the only way we could get it passed to keep the government working. So unfortunately, sometimes you have to make the hard choices, and in this case, they're hoping that a spending bill just for Ukraine pops up sometime, and they'll be able to vote on that. So we'll see what happens. But federal workers, do not fear. You are fine. You'll continue being paid. Your programs, you're going to still continue to get your programs. We have a short period, 45 days, but at least it gets you through October and into mid-November. So enjoy that while we can, and hopefully within that 45 days, something will come up and we can work some stuff out. Hopefully by then, their Lord God King will be in prison for one of his major cases, because that's coming up really quickly also. We're going to talk about that shitbag in a few minutes, but not right now. But before the government shutdown was solved, one of the major issues that would have been cut if the government shut down was everybody's favorite Fat Bear Week, which actually starts this week. So we would not be able to see Fat Bear Week if the government had indeed shut down today, because the national parks are a federal jurisdiction. They get their money from the federal government, from the budget, and they wouldn't be able to produce the Fat Bear Week stuff. But have no fear, Fat Bear Week fans. We've got that. Since this resolution goes for 45 days, Fat Bear Week is going to be done and over with by that time. So rejoice, huzzah. We'll find out the results later. I think I'll maybe next week's episode we'll have the results of Fat Bear Week. If it just goes this week, I'm not exactly sure how it works, or it might be for a couple weeks. I'm not sure, but I guarantee you, when Fat Bear Week's announcements come to who the winner is, you will know on Dylan Knows, because we love our Fat Bear Week. Now, before we get to the Taylor Swift effect, which I do have a big bit about, so we will talk about that. So please, Taylor Swift fans, please stick with me. I will get to that in a second. We had a lot of deaths this week, a lot of big deaths this week. The biggest one was for here in Baltimore. Brooks Robinson, the Baltimore's MVP, he was MVP, I guess, Hall of Fame third baseman, who is considered not just by Baltimoreans, but by basically everybody who loves baseball as one of the, if not the greatest third baseman of all time. Passed away this week at the age of didn't say, I forget. It was 86, I think, something like that. He was the greatest third baseman of all time, number 5 on the Orioles, and just an all-around decent guy. Stayed his whole career, I think, in Baltimore, and everybody who ever met him had nothing but glowing words and said he was one of the most special, nicest, kindest human beings you've ever met. Had time for everybody. Let me see. Billy Bob Thornton did an interview a couple years ago where he talked about his most beloved piece of baseball memorabilia, and his wife, not Angelina Jolie, whoever he married after Angelina, bought him a glove signed by Brooks Robinson. And he talked about that. And Lewis Black, Lewis Black was not Brooks Robinson. Lewis Black was talking about the Orioles. We'll talk about that in a second. But that was kind of neat to see that. My father-in-law used to golf in a bunch of pro-ams where pros team up with amateurs and just have a fun day of golfing. And my father-in-law has told the story a number of times. He was teamed up with Brooks Robinson at one of these pro-ams, and he said, once again, was one of the coolest, nicest guys he'd ever met. Very jovial, very open, very kind. So it's a loss, not just for Baltimore, but for the world of baseball. And the world of baseball, I mean, everybody came together. I mean, all teams and all former players and associates and stuff like that who were connected with baseball all had nothing but glowing words for Brooks Robinson. And he used to do broadcasts for the TV and the radio, and nothing but glowing stuff from his partners who no longer do stuff here in Baltimore. So very hard day for Baltimoreans. The Orioles are wearing the number 5 on their sleeve, and the number 5 has been put up on the wall of the warehouse. He has a statue in the Hall of Legends, and they opened up Camden Yards. It'll be opened up until tomorrow, Sunday, during the day when the Orioles aren't playing a game. It was opened up for people to come and give their respects to Brooks at the statue. There's also a giant number 5 sort of statue out on the Orioles Walk of Fame as well. So Brooks Robinson was a huge loss here in Baltimore, but in all of baseball, one of the kindest, gentlest guys. I've never met him, surprisingly, since my career working with the radio station. You'd think we'd cross paths, but I never got a chance to meet him, which I'm saddened about. But of course, we also did more football than baseball, so there was that. Michael Gambon, who came on board the Harry Potter saga to replace Richard Harris as Dumbledore after Richard Harris passed away. Michael Gambon stayed on as Dumbledore through Harry Potter's 3 through 8. It was a mixed bag for me. He had the intensity, but he was missing the joie de vivre, the wicked glint in his eye, the little smooth, calm, reassuring Dumbledore. He was more of a badass sort of Dumbledore, which was a choice and wasn't bad. He did what he could with the role and what it was given for the role. And I don't have anything but good to talk about him. There are a few things that I found odd for him. We all know what those are, particularly in Goblet of Fire, but that's besides the point. But that's not all he was known for. He was also in Sleepy Hollow, which was Tim Burton's fantastic Halloween movie, which I will be watching this month coming up here in about 7 minutes. He was also in Toys, which is one of the movies that I believe had a good idea, but it just was not done well. He was the bad guy in the movie, directed by Barry Levinson, playing up against Robin Williams, and he held his own, was pretty good. And he was also the singing detective who was famous in the 1960s. He was also in The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, which was a art class, like NC-17 sort of movie. He's done a ton of film and TV appearances. He was on Doctor Who. He was in one of the Christmas specials. They did a Christmas special with the Matt Smith Doctor Who. They did one of the Christmas specials where they did their version of A Christmas Carol with Michael Gambon's character. So Michael Gambon passed away this week. I believe he was 76 years old. David McCullum, another beloved actor, most known recently for his long stint on NCIS and was well loved by everybody on the cast. But he was also a big deal in the 1960s on a little show called The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is a huge popular show in Britain that made its way over to England, not Britain, over to the United States, and became popular there as well. Dave McCullum passed away this week as well. And finally, Dianne Feinstein. I believe she might have been the oldest House of Representative in the House, passed away at the age of 90 this week. She's a representative from the state of California. And the reason why she did not retire sooner was because the Republicans were refusing to replace her spot on one of the many boards she was on with a Democrat. They were going to fill it with a Republican, which would have fucked everything up. So she stayed on as long as she could. Now the governor of California has to appoint someone to take her place to finish out her tenure and then run for re-election if they so choose in the next election cycle. So Dianne Feinstein also died. So that's all the big ones here. I think there's only one other one that I wrote down for this week. Let me see if I can find it just to keep them all together. Not as big, obviously, as these guys were. Alan Asherman, who was a longtime Disney Comics librarian. Apparently, that's the ones that he has access to every single DC comic ever made, and was also a well-liked person at the DC Comics Guild, died this week as well. And I think that was it for all the deaths that I have. But that's some pretty big ones this week. And if I'm missing any other ones, I'm sure I'll come across it here in a few minutes. So yeah, there's that. So rest in peace. Let me get y'all a little drink here. Drinky drink. This is so good. So let's move on. Today's episode 520, which should have been my 10-year anniversary episode a couple weeks ago, but I explained why it wasn't, is called The Taylor Swift Effect. And the Taylor Swift Effect was in full blown mode this week. And I got to say, after this week, I may not be a Swiftie, but I absolutely adore Taylor Swift, and I really, really like her and what she does. Let's talk about the small thing first, because this is what pissed off the GOP about her, who could care less about her until this happened. Taylor Swift is one of those people who has a rabid fan base. Mostly younger women, obviously, yes. But there's all types of older ladies like them, men, boys, whatever. They all like her. And I got a couple of her songs on a couple of my playlists as well. But I don't consider myself a Swiftie. I never will. But I adore her because she does have this fan base. And they listen to what she has to say. And one of the things, before I get to that, one of the things I liked about her that I never knew about, she did a speech at a college graduation, a year or two ago, and it was absolutely phenomenal advice that she was giving to her to the graduating seniors. I thought that was outstanding. So that was an added bonus. But the thing that really got me to like her a lot, and then the cherry on top, is we'll talk about that in a second as we enter October. Republicans were losing their mind over her because there is a little thing called Rock the Vote, which is a program that's been set up back in the early 90s. It's got to at least be about 30 plus years. And I think it had a lot to do with Bill Clinton. Back then, MTV was a huge influence on teenagers and college-age kids who were of age to vote, age 18. And a lot of people liked Bill Clinton, and they wanted to get out of the Reagan-Bush years. So a lot of musicians popular at the time, like probably Rolling Stones and probably Prince was in there, and REM and Madonna and all these, Michael Jackson might have even had something to do with that as well. They created something called Rock the Vote, which was a program to get people, particularly 18-year-olds, to register to vote, because there's been a lack of 18-year-olds voting for a while now. It's been getting better over the last century here. Beginning of 2000, it's been starting to get a little bit better. But from the 80s, 70s, 80s, I think 70s is when it was shifted to 18. So from the moment it was shifted to about the 90s, the 18-year-olds weren't voting as much. Now, the reason why they wanted to get the 18-year-olds to vote back in the 70s was because of the Vietnam War. And so they passed the amendment that allowed 18-year-olds to vote. And then after the war was over, the 18-year-olds really didn't come out as much. They still came out a little bit, but they didn't come out as much as they should have. But as I said, over the last century now, the last 20 plus years, things have been picking up for that. And Rock the Vote was one of those things where a bunch of these rock stars, whatever, they create this fund or this program to get the word out about, hey, we're rock stars, you love us, register to vote to protect your lives and your government and your country and stuff like that. So it's been spiraling, and then MTV dissipated into nothingness, and it sort of kind of disappeared because MTV was really the main thing behind it. But it still popped up periodically here and there. And I don't know if this is actually part of it, but a lot of musicians, stuff like that, are still highly involved in governments and politics, stuff like that. And Taylor is no different. And so she went and sent a message to her fan base and said, hey, we've got a major election coming up in 2024, hugely important one. Would you please do me a favor and register to vote? And vote in that election so our voice can be heard. And after she said that message, 33,000 people signed up for voter registration. 33,000 people from one musician. 33,000 people. And Taylor tends to lean more Democrat. She voted for Biden, was pushing for Biden in 2020. And I think that's also what helped get him elected in 2020 as well, is that Taylor was there, but she she was big, but quite not as big. She has grown over the last 4 years. Her popularity has been huge with the multiple albums she's been releasing. Her Eras concert, that's been a huge success. The movie that's coming out on October 13th was huge, absolutely huge. 33,000 people signed up for vote registration of age, not people like, oh, I'm just going to vote and I'm 14 years old because Taylor told me so. No, these are people who are actually of age who can vote. She got 33,000 of them to register to vote and to vote in the 2024 election. I'm sure she's going to come back out next year and push those people. Hey, you signed up. Now do something about it. That alone, because she tends to lead more Democratic, if all those kids follow what she says, that's 33,000 more Democratic votes. And also that could spiral out to be even more if Taylor continues talking about it, which she most definitely probably will. Real quick, it is officially October. Thank you. October is the greatest month of the year, and we are finally here. That deserves a drink as well. Oh, no. See? October 1st. Yes. So Republicans, I'm sorry, not 35,000 people to vote. 35,000 is more impressive than 33,000. I can tell you that much. That's 2,000 more, son. 35,000 more voters to vote Democratic. That's why the Republicans are screaming about her, screaming that her music sucks and that she's a horrible person and a horrible blah, 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 trying to get their rabid fan base all riled up. And they're just digging their hole because the Republicans are going to be screaming and shouting, Taylor Swift is an awful, terrible, miserable person, not talented, not a star. And her fans are going to go, say what? And they're going to vote your stupid asses out because you're stupid. That's not even the height of stupidity. That's going to get even better here in a second, because and before we get to the other, they're huge. The cherry on top. We're going to get to another smaller bit here. Sophie Turner, who was on Game of Thrones, gorgeous redhead, had settled down with Joe Jonas. Joe Jonas was one of Taylor Swift's exes, and she's written a couple songs about him, I'm sure. But they were exes, and Sophie Turner and him and Joe Jonas fell in love. They got married. They had kids, and then their marriage dissolved a couple weeks ago. And it's been a messy, messy divorce because Joe Jonas, to me, from what I've been reading, appears to be kind of a prick, asshole, shithead. And he is trying to strip away Sophie's rights for visitations of their children. Now, I don't know the full extent of the situation. I'm not following it that close, but I have seen stories that Joe Jonas is being an absolute monster when it comes to the divorce proceedings. Now, because Taylor has this history with Joe Jonas, she reached out to Sophie Turner, and the two of them had a girls' weekend where they would probably just went out and they probably drank and they probably danced and they probably bitched and complained and yelled about how horrible Joe Jonas is and made fun of him and did all the stuff that you do after you have a breakup, which is absolutely normal. It's not terrible. It's not mean-spirited. It's just, you're angry, and you probably done the same thing where you've broken up with somebody or you've been broken up with, and you go and you just blackball them and talk about how awful they are behind their back and stuff like that, because how dare they do this to you? And then maybe things start coming out. You realize that they've always been this way, and so this gave them a chance to bond. So the fact that she reached out to Sophie Turner, who I believe came after Taylor, and said, I embrace you, sister. We're in the same boat here. Let's go get wasted and let's go bitch about him. And I think that's absolutely wonderful as well. And again, from what I've all been seeing, Joe Jonas is a piece of shit. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Joe, but from what I've heard, you seem to be a complete asshole about this whole thing. So you need to step back, son. This is another really, I'm getting to the chair on top, and y'all know what it is, but we'll get there in a second. That's the most I have to say about that. But we'll get there in a second. I got to just do one more thing because this is freaking hilarious. It's October. It's spooky season. It's scary movie month. And October is the best time for horror films to come out. Hell, Saw X is going to win the box office this week. So it's a little early for Halloween, but still horror movies are a big deal in the movie industry. I think it might not seem like it made like $25 million this week. It's like, oh, that's nothing. When the budget was like 12 million, yeah, they've doubled their money from the budget. So it's a massive hit for the company. The production. So you're going to see Saw 11 and 12 and 15 and 1 million because horror movies are huge hits. They're cheap and they make money, and they make the most money in the month of October. And this month of October is especially special because today is Sunday, October 1st. When the first day of the month falls on a Sunday, 13 days from now is a Friday the 13th in October. It happens. It's not an unusual occurrence. It happens every few years, but it's still, when it happens, it is extraordinarily cool because that's like double the scary horror aspect to the month. Full moon will only make it better. We just had our full moon, so you're not going to get another full moon until closer to Halloween. I didn't even think about that either. So, it's scary movie month. Horror films are going to start being released weekly. Oh, and I found out Loki season 2 coming out this week also. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. So we'll move on after that. So, one of the biggest horror movies coming out this month is the reboot of, not really a reboot, it's a continuation of the Exorcist saga, which is, The Exorcist is considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time from the 1970s. It spawned 2 inferior sequels, though there is people who love 2 and 3. But the original Exorcist is still considered to be one of the scariest movies of all time, one of the best horror movies of all time. And David Gordon Green, who redid the Halloween saga with the most recent Halloween trilogy, is directing and working on this one. It's due out in October. It had the perfect date, October 13th, 2023. It was going to release the new Exorcist movie, a horror film on one of the scariest days of the year and one of the scariest months of the year. It was bound to make bank. And then Taylor Swift shows up. She has a concert movie. They picked the 13th because that's the best date that they could see to get it, because people are clamoring for it. Anytime earlier or later is just not going to work. The 13th is the earliest they can get the movie into movie theaters. I talked about this movie already. It's got $100 million worth of pre-orders already. That's just pre-orders. And that was numbers from a couple weeks ago. That number could have gone up by now. I haven't seen that yet. And then on top of that, you're going to have people who are going to say, hey, let's go see the Taylor Swift movie. And they didn't pre-order their tickets yet. So everyone's predicting a 150, possibly even as high as a $200 million opening. And that wouldn't surprise me in the least. Now, David Gordon Green's not stupid. He looked at that and said, oh, fuck. He's like, I ain't fucking with Taylor Swift. So he's shifting it. When's Exorcist going to come out now? He shifted a horror movie from the scariest day of the year, of the scariest month of the year, because of Taylor Swift. Because everybody was going to go see the Taylor Swift movie, and the Exorcist film was going to tank because everybody was going to see the Taylor Swift movie. So The Exorcist is due out now. They moved up to this week, which actually makes a lot of sense. You get a week window to get your big opening weekend, which they will now that they're by themselves now on October 6th. He will get his big weekend, Exorcist. It's a little bit earlier than usual, but that's okay. But he wants to get it out there. And he can also use it to play sort of, not everybody who is going to see the Taylor Swift movie is going to, or excuse me, not everybody wants to see the Taylor Swift movie. There's going to be a lot of people, but not everybody's going to see it. So he'll get some good money in the second weekend on the 13th, particularly since it is Friday 13th. But it would not win the box office, and it probably would not get the same amount of money it's going to get this week. So Exorcist Believer comes out this week. Loki 2 comes out this week. So we got that coming up here too, which is really good. So again, that just shows and proves the Taylor Swift effect was so strong that she forced a horror movie that was going to come out on the scariest day of the year, the scariest month of the year, to move its date because of how powerful she is. All right, I've been teasing it enough. This is the epitome of the Taylor Swift effect. Taylor Swift may or may not be dating Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, who's considered to be the best tight end in the NFL at this point. I love this story. I'm a romantic at heart. I love romantic comedies. It's one of my my pleasures that I like to watch them. I think they're great. They're cheesy. Yes, you know exactly what's probably going to happen. This is something else entirely. This is so cool, and it's so pure as of now, and they're both decent people, and I just love this story. So Taylor was doing this concert, the Eras concert that everybody knows about this year. And one of the venues she went to was Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium, which is where the Chiefs play. That was probably, her concert was probably in the spring, summer, whatever. So they weren't playing football there yet. So Travis decided that he was going to shoot his shot. I shouldn't say shoot his shot. That sounds bad. Take his shot. And he tweeted to Taylor Swift, "Hey, Taylor, I saw how you rocked Arrowhead with your concert. Well done," something like that. "Now I'd like to invite you to see how I can rock Arrowhead Stadium with my team. Would you like to come to a Kansas City Chiefs football game and be my guest?" Taylor, like that, said, "Fuck yeah, I'm going to do that." So Taylor Swift decides to go to the football game last week, Kansas City versus the Bears in Kansas City. She was spotted in the player's box, sitting next to Travis Kelce's mother and his family, chit-chatting, whispering in her ear, being just the cute, lovely person she is. And she was so excited to be there. And Pat Mahomes knew that Taylor was there and knew what was going on with Travis like that. He said, "I have to get Travis the ball." And he was able to get Travis the ball and get him a touchdown. And they shot back to Taylor, and she was losing her freaking mind. She was so excited, so happy, screaming, yelling like any other fan. And she screamed out, "Let's fucking go," which is outstanding because that's what you do at a fucking football game. That's the stuff you kind of fucking say. All you people saying, "Oh, that was a terrible thing for her to say and do." Fuck you. That's what you do at the fucking football game. You fucking curse your ass off. And she was so excited, so happy, and cheering and loving and grabbing the family members and hugging them and all that stuff. And then after the game, which was a blowout, Chiefs 41-9, something like that, she was spotted cleaning up in the booth. She was throwing away old beer, cups and trash and just doing a good thing. Cut now to, she went to visit Travis in his locker room after he's dressed, you sickos, come on. And the two of them were spotted leaving the Kansas City locker room together. They were spotted outside in Travis's convertible, just him and Taylor driving away. Fast forward to about 8 o'clock at night, and people are enjoying a meal at this wonderful restaurant when they're told that they're going to have to leave here soon because a private party will be coming into the restaurant. Now, ordinarily, a lot of people would be pissed off about that, but then the waiters are like, don't worry, your food's been paid for. You can stay until this certain point, but you're going to have to leave after this point. So the whole rumor mill's been going on all week, and then they finally saw the stuff, so they figured, hey, it's probably Taylor and Travis. Sure enough, that's what it was. Travis Kelce was going to do this anyway before Taylor was in the picture, but he was going to take over this restaurant, and he's going to take it over, pay for everybody's meal and have his team and all that stuff come and just have a nice victory dinner at this restaurant without being bothered by people. But Taylor just happened to be with him at that time. So he paid for everybody's meals and they all left, and Taylor and him and the rest of the team and all the family, they all came in there and they had a wonderful time. Pictures inside the restaurant show Taylor on Travis's lap, laughing, cuddling, doing stuff like that, just doing fun little, flirty sort of stuff that you expect on like a first-ish kind of date anyway. And then the next day, Travis does a podcast with his brother, Jason Kelce, who is a football player for the Philadelphia Eagles, but on the defense. The two of them faced off against each other in last year's Super Bowl, which Kansas City won, by the way. And Jason was chiding his brother about the Taylor Swift thing, and they had a discussion about it, and Travis told the story about what was going on, and he said, shout out to Taylor for standing up and coming and doing all this stuff, and was very happy that she was there. Both Travis and Taylor were discussing that they're going to take it slow, whatever this is, because both of them are extraordinarily busy. Travis is in the middle of the NFL season, so he's not going to have a lot of time to hang out because he's got to prep for games. He's got to travel to a lot of games. He's got to play in those games. He's got to recover. He's got to prepare for the next game, so on and so forth. So he's not going to be really accessible for about 18 weeks. Now they have a bye week, and that might be a different story. And then it's going to go into the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs again this year. They might even make the Super Bowl again this year. Who knows? So he's really not going to be available for freedom until mid-February. Valentine's Day. There you go. Taylor is also extraordinarily busy. She's doing albums, she's touring, she's doing press for the movie, and she too cannot just say, I'm just going to hang out and do this stuff. So they're going to try to find time together when they can. Good example is later tonight, because it is Sunday, October 1st, the Chiefs play the Jets on Sunday Night Football in New York. Taylor is already going to be at that game. She's already announced that she will be there, so she will be at the game. So I guarantee you that that's all NBC is going to talk about, which is fine because it's such an adorable story. They look so cute together, and I've never really taken a look at Travis Kelce before, but hearing his clips on the podcast, he's a funny guy. He's a handsome dude, and he seems like a very decent guy. Taylor's had a hard time with finding the perfect dates or whatever, and she's an adorable, sweet young lady also. And not saying anything's going to come up, but this coupling just sounds perfect. They seem to complement each other. It's only after 1 week. Yes, I get that. But everything that's been being said and done has not appeared anything salacious or whatever. It seems like it's been a very nice, cool, early relationship sort of thing. They're not rushing things. They're taking their time. And they can't. There is no fucking way they can go into overdrive because of what they both do. Now, off season might be a different story. We'll see how that works out, because by then Taylor should be done her touring. She should be done promoting the film. Travis will be done playing football. And that February to like June period might be a good time to see how this relationship is going to go. But until that point, they're going to try to find time for each other when they can. Taylor's not going to be at every single Chiefs game. I guarantee you that. That's just not an That's just an impossibility. It's just not possible. And Travis will probably make a concerted effort to try to hang out with her as well. He's not just going to have her do all the stuff. He's going to have to put some work in there too. I think they are also doing another event together that's not until December. But I think it's something that Taylor is involved with. And they've already RSVP'd that they will be there and they will be sitting together. So that's a bonus also. So I love this story. It's adorable. It's lovely. And as I said, I've never been a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I love this story and I love her. I think she's great. I've never been a big Travis Kelce fan because I still think Mark Andrews is one of the best tight ends in football, but everybody says Travis Kelce is better, and he might be, but he's seems like a damn good guy himself. Doesn't jaw or be a dick about stuff. He just quietly does his job. He's very convivial and genial when he does his podcast with his brother. Can take swipes and give them. I mean, and because of Taylor now being involved with a football player, a lot of these young women who might not know a football from baseball are now interested in football as well. And you got to love that also, because now that gives you a whole nother group of fans you can reach out to try to draw them in and to get them to like the same sport that you like, to have more fans for a sport that you like also. And more fans is always fine, is always good. And because of that, this is again the Taylor Swift effect. Kelce has now become a top 5 jersey in the NFL. I'm surprised that top 5 selling jersey in the NFL. I'm surprised he hasn't been there, but I guess you got to think about it. If you're thinking about top 5, Mahomes is probably up there. Lamar might even be up there in some form or another. I'm trying to think of who else might be. There's probably a bunch of people I'm missing. There's probably a whole huge group of other people that are huge guys. I can maybe see ahead of Travis. But the fact that now he's a top 5 jersey because all Taylor Swift fans are like, she likes him. He seems to be a nice enough guy and seems to be treating her right. I want to support him, so I'm going to buy this jersey and wear it. Now, I don't want these asshole people like, oh, you're not a real fan. You're just doing it because of Taylor Swift. It doesn't matter how they get involved into liking football. They're liking football. They're interested to learn about it. Yes, it might be because Taylor Swift possibly could be dating a football player. But don't talk down to someone and say, oh, I've always been a fan. You're just a brand new fan because Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce. Who gives a fuck? They want to learn about football. They want to watch football. And yes, will it get the Chiefs more fans that they don't need? Sure. But you know what? That's fine. Maybe you don't know, because this is people from all over the country. You don't know. They might see Kelce, and then they might get, because of Taylor dating him, and then as the weeks progress and they're trying to watch the Kansas City games, because Kansas City's going to be on all the primetime games, stuff like that, so they're going to be able to see him a lot and see Taylor hopefully a lot too. They might see them. Now, they might get to the point where, like, say there's someone in Baltimore who's a Swiftie, and she's been buying a Kelce jersey. And then she realizes after about 5 or 6 weeks of watching football that she kind of likes the game and wants to learn more about it. And she'll always like Kansas City because Kelce and Taylor are dating. But my home team is the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe I should pay some attention to them. So then they might become a fan of the Baltimore Ravens. Same thing like if you're in San Francisco, or if you're in Chicago or Cleveland or Cincinnati or Tampa or Atlanta or Washington or Houston, wherever. They might be buying the jerseys because Taylor is dating him, and she's got a Kelce jersey now, and he's dating her and treating her well. But once they get ensconced in football and they find out that, hey, I kind of like this game, and then maybe their parents or brother or their boyfriend might say, hey, you want to watch our local team, we can watch Kansas City later, but hey, there's local football going on right now with our local team. Do you want to watch that? And they'll be like, yeah, I like football. Why not? And you get another fan that way. So Kelsey's jersey is now top 5. He's gotten 300,000 more Instagram follows because of his dating. Again, doesn't matter if they're hoping to see more pictures of Taylor and him. It's still pretty impressive. Also, here's another number for you, 24.3 million. That is how many people watched the Kansas City Bears game, which is the most watched show on TV last week. More than Sunday Night Football, which had huge numbers. More than Monday Night Football, which had huge numbers. 24.3 million people watched. Now, I guarantee you in, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, about 7 hours, 8 hours from now, when Sunday Night Football hits, they will have a record-breaking number. They'll probably have more than 24.3 million fans because it is a prime time 8:20 p.m. game, is the only thing on NBC tonight. So 24.3 million is just on the national broadcast on either Fox or CBS. Wasn't sure which one it is. But whatever that was, 24.3 was just on the local game. Now, because it was a 4:15 game, which seems to believe it was like the national sort of, I think it was sort of the national game at that time, right? 4:15, I guess it was, for the 4 o'clock period. That not everybody was going to get. Now, most of the country got it, but there are teams in areas that were playing at 4 o'clock, 4:15, that their game supersedes the national game of the week. So 24.3 is just those watching the game in the markets that they can, because not all markets can. All markets are going to be able to watch tonight's game because it's the only game on at 8:20 p.m. on NBC tonight. It's going to have huge numbers. I'm looking at 33.5 million viewers, I'm almost predicting on this. I almost want to go and watch this game, except it's the fucking Jets. I don't want to watch the fucking Jets. Kansas City's going to destroy them. It's going to be an uneven game the whole time. But that's the Taylor Swift effect. And that's why I love her. And I love Travis. And I think it's great. I love this relationship. I'm going to be one of those guys that's going to keep an eye on it because I absolutely think that this might be the one for Taylor. I hope it is, because everybody deserves to have somebody. I've had my somebody for almost 20 years. Actually, more than that. We started dating on September 29th, 23 years ago. I've known her and her family for 23 years. That's a long fucking time. And I want that for Taylor and Travis. Taylor seems to have had a rough patch when it's come to boyfriends because of her age. Maybe she was too young, not mature enough, but now she's getting older. And she's starting to get to that point where she's starting to look more for potential settle down time. Because, yes, she's getting older. She's still going to be a huge recording star, and you can be a recording star all the way into probably your 40s and 50s and 60s, maybe somewhat. And all the girls that followed her now are going to be following her up till then. So she still has a pretty good career path ahead of her. But everybody deserves a chance to be happy and to have somebody in their life. And Lucy Burge, who is a woman who does gambling stuff in Boston and has come on to the local Baltimore radio station and talked about stuff. She tweeted out the most awesome thing. She said, I hope Taylor Swift marries Travis Kelce because she's a Swiftie. And she likes Travis, and she's also a football fan, so she knows Travis. She's probably interviewed him before, probably. And she said, I hope Taylor marries Travis. And honestly, I do too. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. They're grown-ups. They're taking their time. That's what they should be doing. They cannot be fully invested in this relationship at this time right now. They'll be able to work it out down the line. But at this minute where it's all brand new and everything, both of them are just way too busy right now. They'll find time for each other. And I guarantee you that if they're still sort of doing this sort of thing when it comes to the bye week for Kansas City, Travis and her are going to go off on a trip somewhere. I guarantee you that. Because that's going to be the one time, and they're probably even discussing it right now, is like, look, my bye week is such and so a date. Can you maybe arrange your schedule so that you've got nothing going on that week, and the two of us can go to Barbados or Santa Cruz or San Francisco or Baltimore? I was going to come to Baltimore, dude. I know. I just had to throw it out there. Could you just, would you mind doing that so we can maybe spend a lot of time together and see where this is going? And I guarantee Taylor's going to be like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. So we'll see. This is a story that is not going to go away. Taylor Swift is the biggest name right now in entertainment. Travis Kelce is considered to be the best tight end in the NFL at this moment. So he's on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are considered to be Super Bowl favorites again. So he's in the spotlight. She's in the spotlight. Let's hope the spotlight isn't too bright for them. So fuck you, GOP, who are hating on them. That's it. That's what this is about. The funniest self-own by the GOP about how out of touch they are of things is a maggot GOP Trumper asshole tweeted out after the 35,000 young people registering to vote Democratic, and that Taylor Swift is an awful musician and all stuff because she's creating people who are going to remove them from office as they deserve to be removed from office. But this Republican asshole literally tweeted this out saying, I can't believe that Travis Kelce is falling for this, that Taylor is just using Travis Kelce's star to make herself popular. Much like with Tom Brady, the female in this couple, power couple, probably makes more money. Taylor Swift, for goddamn sure, makes more money than Travis Kelce. Taylor Swift, for goddamn sure, is known by more people than Travis Kelce is, or was at that time. He's now known now, but because he's attached to Taylor Swift. Now, Tom Brady, and at the time his wife, who was a supermodel, she made more money than him. But he was the bigger name because she put her career on hold to take care of their kids while he was off winning Super Bowls, which is kind of what sort of broke them up. Good riddance, I'd say, but that's besides the point. Taylor Swift is a bigger star, will always be a bigger star than Travis Kelce, which is not a ding on Travis. And Travis, for goddamn sure, knows this. And you know what? He doesn't give a fuck. He likes spending time with her. He thinks she's a great woman. He thinks that there is potential for a relationship. That's why he took the chance. And all that would have happened is if she rejected him. I was rejected by Taylor Swift, the most popular person in the world at this moment. Yeah, it happens. She didn't reject him, though. And that's where Travis is, what the fuck did I just do? And it's like, I'm glad I fucking did that. So we'll keep an eye on this couple. I for sure, goddamn sure I'm going to keep an eye on this couple. And the Taylor Swift effect is real. And I'm going to try to prove something too, because this is all I got to say about Taylor right now, because I don't have anything else to say about Taylor this week. Maybe later on in the week, we'll see. But I titled this episode The Taylor Swift Effect because I want to see if I will get more views. Now, they only watch it for like 5 seconds, and when they see my rant about Donald Trump, they're like, what the fuck is this dude? And they're going to get rid of it, but the views are still going to count. And I will put, when I post this on Facebook and Twitter and all that, I will say, hey, Taylor Swift fans, I do talk about Taylor for a good half hour. So just get through my little screaming here for about the first 10 minutes, and then you can see me talking here. So I had 5 views on my show last week. I will let you know next week if this actually was successful. I'm thinking I'm going to be upwards of about 30 to 50 views on this show. Hopefully, maybe they'll hang on and say, hey, this guy's pretty cool. But not expecting, because they're probably going to stop watching after this point, because that's all I have to say about Taylor and Travis. So we'll watch later tonight. We'll see what happens. And I'm sure we'll have lots of pictures and lots of stories tomorrow, Monday, about tonight's game. I'm in Baltimore. We have the Ravens. They lost to the Colts in a heartbreaker overtime loss. They deserve to lose. They look shitty. More injuries, whatever. We're not talking about them right now. We're talking about the Baltimore Orioles, which is my baseball team. Has been my baseball team since I was born. My mom and dad and my sister lived in a house a block away from Memorial Stadium on 33rd Street, which is where the Orioles played until 1993. No, 92. And I only lived there for a year because I was a baby. I was born, and I lived there for a year, and we moved when I was 1 to the house that my mom still lives at right now up in Towson. But my mom, back then, baseball wasn't as big and corporate as it is now. And Memorial Stadium was in the middle of a neighborhood, and just the local fans would be out there. And we were rabid fans, stuff like that. The Orioles were pretty good during the 70s and early 80s, and then became awful for the majority of the 80s and 90s. Had some moments, 89. And then again, the late 90s, we had some moments. And then we had some moments in the mid 2000s here. And then we've been terrible. But when I was a baby, my mom would walk me up to the stadium. As I said, we were only a block away from the stadium when the Orioles were in town. And she befriended some of the ushers who were watching the gates. And if my mom went by about the 4th inning, the usher would be like, go ahead in. You don't need a ticket. It's cool. Find a seat if you can, So I went and I watched a bunch of free Orioles games. I don't remember them because I was 1 year old, but the fact that my mom took me to them when I was younger was kind of cool. And then my dad would take me to a bunch when I was older, because I was playing some baseball and rec league, and the Orioles were my favorite team since the Colts had left, and I wasn't a football fanatic like I am now. And then I went to the last game at Memorial Stadium before they moved to Camden Yards, which is an amazing stadium, which was the blueprint for every other stadium since, and it's still a nice stadium. Been there twice this year. Could have gone a third time, but I decided not to. But we went twice, and they were 1-1, so that's good. But from about 2016, maybe 2015, 2016, I think was more like it, till last year, the Baltimore Orioles were terrible. They were perennial basement dwellers. Their season was over by the All-Star break, and attendance fell as the Ravens, who had been good for the majority of their 20-plus seasons in Baltimore, became the creme de la creme of Baltimore sports because they were winning, and they were been to the Super Bowl, and they were in the playoff games and stuff like that. The Orioles were not even sniffing that stuff for a while. So we had a new regime come in, new general manager, new all kinds of stuff, and they had to rebuild the Orioles from the ground up. And the rebuild was painful, as all rebuilds are. And then we had to deal with COVID in 2020, so that fucked things up even more and increased the length of time for the rebuild while we tried to make our way through that. But because we were perennial bottom dwellers and because of certain things, we were always getting high draft picks. And our new GM, Mike Elias, who turned the Houston Astros around into a perennial World Series team or playoff team at least, wanted to do his magic for the Orioles. So he had all these first round picks. We had the first overall pick, I think, twice during his regime. And he also helped set up a pipeline to Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and stuff like that, where other huge base players have been coming from to come play for Baltimore as well. And so he rebuilt our farm systems and brought in all these really great prospects. And as we were getting these and they were showing how good they actually were, our farm teams went from being the worst in baseball to the best in baseball and are still up in the top 5, despite the fact that the majority of our first round picks, who were the big studs, are now part of the main team right now. We still have the number 1 prospect in baseball on our team and a whole bunch of other, prospects. So we're still considered one of the top 3 farm systems in baseball right now. But because of that rebuild, last year, when we brought Adley Rutschman up, who was our number 1 draft pick back in May, we have not been swept in a series, which means we've won at least 1 game in every series against every team we've played from May 2022 to to October 1st, 2023. We did not get swept at all this season, not once. Yes, we won 1 game out of a 3-game set, so we were 1-2 in a bunch of them. We split a bunch of 4-game sets, 2-2, but we also were 4-0, 3-0, 2-1. So, we still did pretty good. And so you could see us rising last year, but we made a slight run, but we did not finish in the cellar last year. So this year, when the season started, all the pundits were still picking the Orioles to be last because of how bad we had been over the previous years, ignoring the fact that we were on the increase and the ascension. We were ascending. They didn't pay much attention to that. They just saw Orioles and thought that, the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Rays and the Blue Jays are all so much better than the Orioles. So the Orioles are going to end up in last place. 2 days ago, the Baltimore Orioles clinched the AL East division with 100 wins and are the number 1 seed in the American League. We just won again. We lost yesterday, we lost on Friday, and we won yesterday, Saturday. So we have 101 games. We've won 101 games. We've got 1 more game left, which is later today. And we're in the playoffs with the number 1 seed. So we don't have to play in the play-in games that are going to be happening later this week. Our first game is not until October 8th. But yeah, we had a huge turnaround. We've had an incredible season, and we are continuing to show resilience. I don't want to go too far, but I think we're going to go a little bit further than expected in these playoffs. And since we're the number 1 seed, we have home field advantage, which means in the 5-game set we've got coming up starting October 8th, 3 of the 5 games we played in Baltimore. If we win those and move on to the next one, 4 of the 7 games potentially in the next playoff set will be played in Baltimore. Now, the World Series is a different animal because of the National League, depending on who comes in and they'll work out. I forget how they used to use the All-Star game to work out who had home field advantage, but I'm not exactly sure how that works now since they got rid of that. So we'll see how that all works out depending on certain things. But we are in the postseason for the first time in almost 10 years. And it feels good. Something else to feel good about. The Writers Guild. We've been talking about the Writers Guild strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike on this show for a while now. This week, again, crazy week. This week, the Writers Guild came to a decision with the production companies. Strike is over. They basically got everything they wanted. AI is no longer an issue with the Writers Guild. They've got a little bit, they didn't get as much residuals as they wanted, but they got some. They got better residuals, better pay, better stuff going on. So it was a win for the WGA. SAG-AFTRA, however, is still on strike. But tomorrow, Monday, the 2nd of October, they have a meeting to try to iron out a contract with the production companies. Now, with WGA getting theirs, they now have a lot more leverage against the production companies, saying, WGA got this. They got everything they wanted. Give us what we want. So we'll see how that works out. So it's very possible that next week at this time, I'll be announcing that SAG-AFTRA is also stopped striking as well. Fingers crossed, but we'll see. Could be a little more tricky than usual, but that's a good sign. Other good news that came out this week, my cousin Amanda, a friend of hers, happens to be an astronaut by the name of Frank Rubio. Frank Rubio was selected to go to the International Space Station for 6 months. So he's going to go into space and live on the ISS for 6 months. It's a big deal, big freaking deal. It's awesome. My cousin knows him, friends with the family, was happy to see him go. And then he just got back. 371 days in space. Not 6 months, over a year in space. The reason was certain ways to get them off of the ISS. There were damages, problems like that. They couldn't send another one till later, and then they couldn't time it just right. So Frank Rubio had to extend his stay in space for another 6 months, if not, I think more like 7 months, actually, I think about it. He eventually made his landing back on Earth after 371 days in space. He's back on terra firma. And he's also the person who spent the most time in outer space. And he's friends with my cousin. I thought that was kind of cool. Even more weird stuff going on this week. The suspect in Tupac Shakur's 1996 shooting death. The person they suspected for the longest time, but they did not have any proof on or whatever, could not hold him or whatever. They finally got him. Keefe D has been arrested under suspicion of murdering Tupac Shakur. I guess that was almost 10 years, 20 years ago. And more evidence, I guess, presented itself. And he has been arrested, and we will see how that goes. Another win for outer space. NASA had sent a satellite to, I guess it was NASA. I think it's NASA. Sent a satellite to an asteroid, landed on the asteroid, took a sample from the asteroid, launched the sample back to Earth while the lander stayed on the asteroid to continue investigating it. The sample landed on Earth this week, which means it was a successful mission. They weren't sure how that was going to work out, but it landed exactly where it was supposed to. They timed it perfectly. They were able to get it perfectly. That worked too. That's another win for this week as well. Talked about that already. I'm not going to talk about this because I think it's stupid. Donald Trump, I'm going to talk about that asshole here for a second in a good light. New York City and New York State, I should say, New York State has found him guilty of fraud in New York, which means he cannot ever open a business, do business, or make any money in New York ever again. that's another win for us also. I've never been the biggest Matthew Vaughn fan director, but he's done some interesting things that have intrigued me. And his newest film, they released a trailer called Argyle. The movie's called Argyle. And I saw it was going to be a Henry Cavill sort of spy sort of thriller. I was like, okay, let me just look at it because I'm not a Snyder bro who believes that Cavill got screwed out of being Superman. He was an okay Superman in my eyes. He probably could have been better with a better director, better story, whatever, but that's besides the point. He's no longer Superman. He did a pretty good job as a Witcher, but again, was removed from that job as well. He's lined up to do Highlander, and everyone just loves him because he's a big geeky nerd sort of guy like that. So I didn't think much about it. I was like, it's Matthew Vaughn, it's Henry Cavill, and they worked together before. And I was like, let's just take a look at the trailer. I'm glad I took a look at the Argyle trailer because, yes, it starts off like a typical spy films like Henry Cavill is doing, like a James Bond sort of thing, and there's all kinds of action stuff like that. And then there's a cliffhanger, and then it fades to white, and we see a harried Bryce Dallas Howard at a computer. She was writing the story we just saw. She is a spy writer. And her mother, played by Catherine O'Hara, was reading it and was giving it awful criticism, saying it was lousy, garbage, stuff like that, and it was hilarious. So she's a normal writer, just and her character's popular, stuff like that. She's on this train, and she's about to get assaulted by somebody when this scraggly-looking dude with gray hair comes and beats the crap out of the person. And it's Sam Rockwell, and he says that her life is in danger because the books that she's been writing about Argyle and the spy stuff are actually true, and they don't understand how she was able to write something she's never seen before, thinking it's fiction, but it's nonfiction. So this scraggly looking Sam Rockwell, and not the handsome buff Henry Cavill, is the real spy you're going to be following in this movie, as he has to protect her from being killed by enemy agents, one of whom is played by Samuel L. Jackson. So it looks like we're going to be in and out of stuff. And there's also a cat that's involved with it as well. So it looks absolutely insane, looks like a whole lot of fun, and it's due out on Groundhog Day, 2/2/24. So I am looking forward to that. I might actually watch that in the movie theaters because that looks very fun. The Golden Bachelor. The Bachelor is an awful reality show about a good-looking rich guy who has to choose between 20 gorgeous women, big breasts, long hair, gorgeous, who want a husband or whatever, and they'll do anything to get him. There's jacuzzi scenes and bikini scenes and sexual overtones and stuff like that. And then he has to pick someone who he's going to give a rose to and then propose to, and they're going to get married. And none of them, maybe one of them, has actually stayed together. The Golden Bachelor is a different story, though. Golden Bachelor is a 60-year-old dude who's re-entering the dating game and wants to meet women his age. So it's not the big-breasted, money-grubbing women. They're regular-looking women. So I find that kind of an interesting thing. The first episode aired this week, and the viewers actually were decent. The viewership was decent. Not as decent as Taylor Swift at the Chiefs game, but that's besides the point. What happened to me this week? Well, let's find out what else happened to me this week. So besides all this other stuff happening, Friday, I jammed my finger. Actually, I was buying a bottle of wine because the anniversary of my wife and I's first date was on the 29th of September, 23rd anniversary of it. And I bought a bottle of wine, and I was walking out of the wine store, and I was opening the passenger side door to put the wine bottle. So I was holding the wine sort of like this, and I slammed the door into my finger, which slammed it into the bottle of wine, and it crushed this finger. Now it's not broken, but it still hurts a little bit. So I did that. There was a massively awful bad smell at my work Thursday. It permeated throughout the entire warehouse and office area. Smelled like a combination of rotten eggs and sulfur. And Then there was a little bit of ascent on Friday. So that was lovely. Despite all the tribulations of, my big class order I had to do for my account at work, the due date was Monday. I had to get it shipped out by, and the way things were going, I didn't think I was going to get out till Tuesday or Wednesday. I worked my ass off, and I got it out on Monday. Well, I got it done on Monday, and I wrapped it, and it got ready for trucking, and the trucking company did not pick it up until Tuesday, which pissed me off also because I worked my ass off to get that done, and I got it done. And I found for my son, it's got to be a seasonal thing. And I got a thing of it also. Baskin Robbins had a new sherbet. They usually have, this is in the grocery store, you can get a pint of their sherbet. So they usually have the rainbow sherbet, which I absolutely love. But I went to the Giant today, and they had a new sherbet, which was blue raspberry, green apple, and fruit punch flavored. And I thought, that sounds really good. And I asked my son if he wanted one. He said he did. So I got it for him, and he said he liked it. I haven't tried it yet. Mine's in the freezer, so I'll try it sometime soon. So that's good. So not so good, Martin Scorsese, who, again, I think he's a great film history buff, and his films are probably pretty good, but he's talking out of his ass again. He's rampaging against superhero movies and has been for a while. He re-upped on it again this week. He also re-upped it on the title of indie movie and complained about that. I don't want to get into much detail about that because it was, I don't want to bring more air to it, but I have lost a whole ton of respect for Martin Scorsese and all the film pundits and film geeks who are just love with his stuff. And he's talking about, all the superhero movies are all the same and they don't really do much. And it's, eye candy. And then after the film, you're not thinking about it, or after you watch the film, you're not thinking about it or discussing it with your friends like that, like the more important movies, like his movies. I've never talked about your movies to anybody about it. And all your movies are basically the same. They all glorify violence, even though they might be based on true stories. You like to glorify the violence, and then you make it seem like it's so great. And all these film buffs and geeks are absolutely adoring it. Martin, I love your film. I love your love for film, but you got to stop talking sometimes, man. Marvel Comics movies, DC movies, superhero movies are part of moviedom. Independents are part of moviedom. It's not bad things. It's a different type of art. And it happens that you're so pissed off that your movies aren't making any money in movie theaters. Maybe you need to change up what you do in movies, because obviously it's not drawing the attention it's supposed to, because people don't want to see the same thing. They don't want to see mobsters killing each other in violent ways, stuff like that. And they don't want to see 3+ hour movies. Like, I love Killers of the Flower Moon. It was a great book, and your movie adaptation looks interesting. But again, you're glorifying the violence. Yes, it's a violent story, and it does happen. But it just seems like you're focusing more on the killers and not on the Indians who are affected by it. So we'll see. So I'm not going to say anything more about that. But Martin, you just got to stop, man. You just got to stop. The Coen Brothers 2010 movie remake True Grit is the last DVD that the Netflix mailing DVD sent out before they shut down. I thought that was just kind of an interesting little thing to do about the Harvest Supermoon happened yesterday, or rather I should say Friday. And that's all you need to know about that. October has Friday the 13th. We already discussed that as well. There was a new amazing Doctor Who trailer. I think I talked about that last week. But it's still amazing. You still need to check it out. So later today, actually, it's 1:00 right now, in 8.5 hours. So yeah, so actually it wouldn't be, no, so 8:00 would be 12 hours. No, it'd be 24 hours. That's where I did wrong. It's 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, about 19 hours. And that was 18 hours from now is when Taylor Swift is going to be seen on NFL Sunday Night Football, not 7 hours, because in 8.5 hours would be 9:30 a.m. We're going to get the first NFL London game. This one is the Jaguars versus the Falcons. It's the first of 3 straight games in England. Next week, Jacksonville stays in England, and they take on somebody. I don't remember who. And then the week after that, the Baltimore Ravens, my team, goes to England to take on the Tennessee Titans. But this is what's kind of cool. Another cool thing that happened this week. So, and I'm still in shock about how they're going to do this, but I might have to check it out myself. So 9:30 a.m., 8.5 hours from now, the Jaguars Atlanta Falcons game will be aired on NBC or like CBS or whatever, because of the time change. That's like around 1:30, 12:30, 1:30 over in England. So that makes sense for the game to be then. So 9:30 a.m. For the first time ever, Disney Plus, yes, that Disney Plus, will be airing something called Toy Story Fun Day Football, which will be airing at the same time as the Jaguars Falcons London game. And it'll be done by Pixar, and it'll take place in Andy's room, and it'll be a real-time Pixar animated version of the football game to air on Disney Plus at 9:30 a.m. It starts at 9:30 a.m. So it's not like something they're gonna just make something up on the side and then show it later. No, they're actually going to do what's going on in the real game, but in Pixar. I'm intrigued as hell to see how the hell they're going to do that, because I can't even imagine how they're going to do that in real time. But they are. So that should be really interesting to see. And if it's successful, they're going to probably continue to do it. Disney also has opened, now the WGA strike is over, Disney has now also opened up the pitch room for writers who want to bring about their vision to bring the X-Men to the MCU. So they're going to start taking pitches from writers who want to be the writers for the new X-Men DC MCU movies coming up here in a few years. This is another great story. Studio Ghibli, which does the Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke and Kiki's Delivery Service and My Neighbor Totoro and all those awesome movies, has a amusement park. And Studio Ghibli, along with other people, government people, whatever, decided they wanted to help bring single men and women together in a non-bar, non-restaurant sort of way, do it a little bit of a different way to try to create a relationship. So first date sort of thing. So they have teamed up to offer a dating event at the Studio Ghibli amusement park on October 7th, which is going to be like a scavenger hunt where a man and woman who matched on or on a first date or on their second date or whatever had to sign up to be a part of it, and then they would spend time together trying to solve the scavenger hunt. That way they get to know each other in a different way than from sitting in a bar or eating in a restaurant or going to movies or whatever. It's kind of a cute idea. It's a great idea, cute idea. I think it's fantastic. And honestly, Studio Ghibli amusement park was only expecting about 400 people, 200 men, 200 women to show up. When they opened up the registration, they were surprised as hell after they shut it down to see that over 1,000 men and 1,000 women had signed up for this singles event at the Studio Ghibli amusement park. 2,000 people, singles, wanted to be involved in this dating event at Studio Ghibli's amusement park. I find that outstanding and amazing, and just goes to show you how beloved Studio Ghibli is and how family oriented that is, because it's not a dirty thing. It's Studio Ghibli. It's for families. and it's a scavenger hunt. So you're working together. So there's not going to be that sort of sexual tension or, flirting or stuff like that. You're going to be working together and seeing how well you mesh together. I think that's awesome. Spoiler alert, C-3PO, who has been basically in every single Star Wars iteration that can be imagined, popped up on the Ahsoka show this week. Anthony Daniels still portraying the character. Popped up on Ahsoka this week, as did Ezra Bridger and Thrawn. So it was a big episode for Ahsoka fans. The first Red Band trailer for the Toxic Avenger popped up. It was just a teaser trailer, showed the goriness of it, but not much else was seen. Didn't get to see the costume in all its glory, whatever. But then there was something that was released. I was finding that Peter Dinklage, who's the star of it, is actually not the one who's under all the Toxic Avenger makeup. It's a stunt person. So I find that kind of off-putting, but whatever. Jason Blum from Blumhouse says that his Spawn reboot that Todd McFarlane has written, is probably going to direct, is still on and set to open for Blumhouse in 2025, despite the fact that SAG-AFTRA has not finished have not reached a agreement yet. Blumhouse is certain that it's going to happen, and that Spawn reboot, remake, whatever, that's headed up by the guy who created Spawn, will hit its 2025 date. In toy news, Super 7 Skeleton Godzilla toy. It is basically a Godzilla skeleton, and it's a toy. I just find that kind of interesting and kind of funny. So that's kind of neat. Some local news. As I said, the Orioles had their ups. They had their down with Brooke Robinson dying. They had another down announced this week. Felix Bautista, their stud closer, which helped them get to where they are now, has been out for about a month now with an arm injury, and they weren't sure the extent of how bad it was. They thought he might be able to make it back in time for the playoffs. That ain't going to happen. He ain't going to make it back until 2025. He's going to need Tommy John surgery, so he will be out for the next year and a half, which is a major hit for Felix because he was just finding his mojo again, and a hit for the Orioles, who lost their best closer in many years. Starbucks' new Halloween cups, since it is now officially October, the new Starbucks cups are probably going to be available probably starting on Monday, had leaked a little bit. And one of them is a slime dripping tumbler, which looks absolutely awesome. And I might have to go to local Starbucks to pick one up for myself because it looks so awesome. The NECA Toy Company has announced a license that they have licensed multiple product, a product line, about Pee Wee Herman. So you're going to be seeing Pee Wee Herman action figures and Pee Wee's Playhouse play sets, and maybe Big Adventure stuff and Big Top Pee Wee, and all kinds of Pee Wee Herman toys and stuff like that will be available from NECA over the next couple years. So that's really kind of cool. For those who don't remember, Paul Rubens, who played Pee Wee Herman, died earlier this year. A van crashes into a Lego store. I thought that was an interesting story. There's no joke, no whatever, just kind of an interesting thing. This is a depressing thing, but it's totally expected of Hollywood. A Titan submersible movie is in the works. For those who don't remember, another story that happened this year was the Titan submersible that was going to go down to look at the Titanic, that had a bunch of rich people on it. They lost contact with it. They believed that there was a crack or something, and it flooded, and everybody was drowned down near the Titanic. And it was a big story for a while. They're now going to make a movie about it, which I shouldn't be surprised about, but they are. The XFL and the USFL, which are two football leagues that were trying to compete for football fans during the summer, because football doesn't play during the summer, and for people who don't like baseball and miss football, they wanted to watch this, and it did okay, but it wasn't great, and a lot of people like football. They've announced this week that they will be joining forces and merging their two divisions into one summer football league, which is similar to what happened when the NFC and the AFC merged. So if they can do something similar like that, that could actually be pretty cool, and do it during the summer. Now, there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to share city, stuff like that. So they might have to rearrange some things about that, but that's kind of interesting that they're doing that as well. Here's something due to the writer's strike and the SAG-AFTRA. The networks had to find something to replace. So reality shows are the most obvious choice. And here's one that has not been seen in a long time ago, but Deal or No Deal is coming back to television in 2024, this time with host Joe Manganiello. And it is going to be called Deal or No Deal Island. Will be taking place on an island, and it's going to be the game show, but on an island. Okay. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Because the Orioles' first playoff game is already pretty much set for October 8th, there's a bit of an issue now. Because I guess when they booked this concert, they weren't expecting the Orioles to make the playoffs, or at least play the first game in the second round of the playoffs. But they are, and they're going to deal with it because the way our stadiums work is Camden Yards is right here. M&T Bank Stadium, where the Ravens play, is right here. They're right next to each other. They share parking lots and stuff like that, and other stuff like that. So that's why there will never be, if the Orioles are at home during a weekend, like the good example is today, the Orioles are at home playing Boston to finish their season. The Ravens are away in Cleveland this week. They will never have the Ravens and the Orioles at home at the same time because they cannot, because they share the parking lot. And it would be impossible to have both games ending at the same time and having everybody merge out at the same time. It would be a huge disaster. So they try to work it around that, but because it is due out October 8th, and the first game is due October 8th, they're going to have to schedule an earlier time for the Orioles game because Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks are going to be doing a concert on October 8th at M&T Bank Stadium. So you cannot have a night playoff game at Camden Yards and a night concert at M&T Bank. It is not possible. It's going to be hard to even do a day Orioles playoff game and a night concert at M&T Bank because as people are leaving the stadium parking lot, people are going to be coming in for the concert. Now, we've had an issue. We've had something like that happen before, and it worked out okay, but it's still going to be a big mess. So they're going to have to figure that out and work that out. So I find that kind of interesting. A man befriends a bear over the years, and then this year she brought her cubs to meet him. I think that's an adorable story, and I love it, and I think it's wonderful. A dust devil was photographed traversing the Martian surface, so the video is really kind of cool to take a look at it. Hattie McDaniel, the first Black person ever to win an Oscar for Gone with the Wind back in 1939. About 60 years ago, her Oscar went missing. No one knows what happens or whatever. But finally, after 60 years without it, the Academy has decided to grant her a brand new one, get her a new one to replace the one that was lost. It took 60 years. We can probably figure out why for racism and bullshit like that, but still, it's crazy. Now, another big thing about the Orioles that was a big thing at the time, it was the same day they clinched the division, was news that it looked like that the Orioles had signed a 30-year lease with the Baltimore City because there's been issues with trying to get that lease signed. So when they announced that, the crowd went wild because it's been a big news story here. Turns out it's not exactly what happened. Turns out a couple days later, they revealed, well, actually, no money has been placed in the lease. This is just a 30-year lease is in the making. It's a thing right now. And we just have to work out the money aspect of it. So they said they've got a handshake deal for a 30-year lease, but they got to work the money out. So the Orioles presently do not have a 30-year lease, despite the fact that they announced at the game where they clinched it that they did, with the owner and the GM in attendance, not the GM, the owner and the mayor or the governor or the mayor in attendance. So just seemed kind of stupid about that. Now, I've been a critic of James Cameron because of his Avatar shit and his attitude towards that and attitude towards a lot of different things. He's still a really good filmmaker, is an Oscar-winning filmmaker, but he just declares himself the greatest of all time, blah, blah, blah. I find a lot of what he does off-putting. I think the Avatar movies are pieces of garbage, but apparently a lot of people disagree with me because they are in the top 3 highest grossing movies of all time, which disturbs me a little bit. But I like James Cameron's work, with the exception of these last few movies. One of my favorites is The Abyss, one of his most underseen and underrated movies that no one ever talks about. Everybody talks about True Lies and the Terminator movies and Aliens and Titanic and the Avatar movies, but no one ever talks about The Abyss, which is one of my favorites. Came out in the late 80s. Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, I believe that's who that actress was, Michael Biehn, and it's a fantastic movie. It is outstanding. I showed my daughter. She liked it also. It is a great film, wonderful, awesome. Love it, love it, love it. It is finally getting a 4K transfer. It looks gorgeous from the shots I've seen of it. This transfer looks amazing and is going to make this film be even better. So I might need to pick up a 4K Blu-ray here so I can just get it for this movie, because it is the type of movie that deserves the 4K treatment, and it is getting it later this year. So that's awesome. Hats off for that. Magic the Gathering apparently has themed pancakes at IHOP, so you can get Magic the Gathering themed pancakes at IHOP now. That's pretty cool. Burial, which is the first cereal by Sam Adams to go with Sam Adams Oktoberfest, is being re-released this year. But before you go crazy, Burial is just a box of pretzels that you can pour into a cereal bowl, and don't pour the beer in there. That's not what they want to do. They want you to have the cereal there, but they called it Burial instead of just calling it pretzels and beer, because Oktoberfest is coming up. 5 members of Alpha 5 jump team set a new record for height altitude skydiving over New Mexico. So that happened this week as well. Here for Blood, Cineverse acquires the Wrestlers versus Supernatural Evil horror comedy. That sounds like someone just said, what should we do next horror comedy film? Let's find a group of people a lot of people wouldn't expect. There have been ones where the Boy Scouts take on evil. Now we've got wrestlers taking on evil, and I think that's hilarious. 13 Going on 30, which is an amazing, fun, romantic comedy with Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo, is now getting the musical treatment. And that could be fun. She was a big 80s fan, so maybe we're going to have some 80s music in that. But it seems like a very reasonable and understandable show to turn into a musical, and surprised it took this long to get it done. But it is being turned into a musical over in the UK to start with, and then it'll make its way over to the US. And speaking of the UK, Steve Coogan, who is a famous actor over in the UK, is set to play Dr. Strangelove in a stage adaptation of the Stanley Kubrick film. A couple of anniversaries this week. Remember the Titans, the Denzel Washington football movie, came out 23 years ago this week. And also 23 years ago this week was my date with my wife, Dawn. It's 1:43, and I still got 3 full pages of notes, so let's keep moving. This is going to be over 2 hours, but I had a lot to say about Taylor, and I'm going to keep saying it. How about Hellboy? It's spooky season. Let's talk a little about Hellboy. Hellboy Web of Weird video game, which is due to come out this week as well, has now been pushed back to October 18th. No reason given, but you know what? It's still coming out. Just been pushed back for a couple weeks. Also, Hellboy, the Crooked Man, the producers of the film that not a lot of people know about. No behind-the-scenes photographs have been shown of it. No trailer has appeared for it yet. He says that the film is dark and disturbing and creepy, and that's exactly what Hellboy is like, and I actually can't wait to see it, and I want to see it like now. For the first time, scientists write words with liquid water. I don't know exactly how they did it. They gave some sort of scientific way of doing it, but I did not understand it all. So, oh well, that's what it is. Aussies are in fear of a monster snake that has taken over a neighborhood in Australia. They're afraid to go out, afraid to let their animals out because this snake is having free reign in this neighborhood. And Australia is known for their crazy animal species. A new Dick Tracy comic book will be coming out from Mad Cave Studios. Has a very interesting creative team. I can't remember what it is. I didn't write it down, but I saw it and I liked the artwork of it, so it could be kind of interesting. Usher has been picked to do the Super Bowl halftime show this year, so that's pretty cool. And who knows if Kansas City makes it into the Super Bowl this year, maybe it'll be a guest appearance by Miss Taylor Swift. We'll see. See, I keep dropping Taylor in here this episode. So if you're still watching and you're a Taylor Swiftie fan and still saying, "Is this guy going to talk about her again?" I just did again. I'll keep dropping her name in here periodically. Spirit Halloween, you'll start seeing these start popping up more and more often in your neighborhoods now. They have named Butterfinger as the official candy bar of Spirit Halloween places. Butterfinger's okay. I like it. The only problem with Butterfinger is that it jams up in my teeth. My teeth are already sucky as it is, so that doesn't help any because it just gets up there and you got to pick at it with your fingers and it looks disgusting. It tastes good, but it sticks to those teeth and get up there pretty good. I brought this up because this was created at my college when I was there, and I still attest to this day as a joke that I was the one that came up with the idea. But the idea seeped out of my head and entered into the room underneath my dorm room where Brian Turtle and his friends, the creators of the game, actually lived and created the game in that room that year when I lived above them. So I like to believe that the idea came from me and it went into them and they got all the fame for it. Brian Turtle's a nice guy. Haven't really been with the other guys, but I've known Brian for a while. He and I had reconnected when I worked at Diamond, and then I'm good friends with him. Not good friends, but I'm friends with him on Facebook, which is really cool. And I still see him every once in a while. He comments on things, wishing me happy birthday, so on and so forth. And he's a fellow Albright College alumnus. But Kevin Bacon, when he first heard about the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, thought that it was making fun of him, which is the furthest thing from Brian and his friends' plans. They were just surprised about how many movies that Kevin Bacon has been in and how many great actors he's worked with. And then they came up with the game that way. Because Samuel L. Jackson and Michael Caine and Gene Hackman, they've been in a million movies. So the numbers would probably be easy. Like everybody has probably worked with them once. So their number would just be 1. But it's fun to see how many people Kevin Bacon has actually worked with and how it's connected to him. It's a really neat game. And he knows now that they weren't being made, that they were not making fun of him. But he did say today in an interview or this week interview that he thought at the time that they weren't making fun of him. Curious Canine in Brazil turns out to be the first of its kind, a hybrid between a South American pampas fox and a dog called a Dogsium, which is the name of the dog that was created this way. 120 years ago, in 1903, a doctor bet $50, at the time was a lot of money, that he could cross America by car. This is 1903, so there's not a lot of roads and there's not a lot of cars. He did it in 63 days, and it cost him $8,000 to do, which was a lot at that time. But he did it, and he was the first person to traverse the United States in a car in 1903. Disney has a new Thanksgiving movie coming out. That's not about Thanksgiving. It's a movie that'll be out on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to take advantage of the holiday weekend. Disney does that all the time, and they stopped doing it after COVID hit, but then they've gradually gotten back into that. And I saw the trailer for it, and I want to see this one too. It's called Wish, and it's for the people who did Frozen. And the premise behind that is there's a king who's voiced by Chris Pine, who grants wishes to members of his community. And he has a young woman working with him, and she discovers that he has the power to grant wishes to everybody, but he picks and chooses who he gives them to. And he tends to give them to people who are more better off than people who are poor and need things desperately. He doesn't give them their wishes, and she thinks that that's not good. So she makes a wish on a falling star. The falling star actually comes to her and is actually an anthropomorphic falling star and grants her the ability to create wishes as well. So the king now sees a threat in his former protege and goes to war against her. It's a wonderful trailer. Looks absolutely stunning, gorgeous. They didn't play a lot of the music, but they played some songs and they sounded okay, but it looks like a fun film. And that's another one that I probably will have to take a look at. Powerball is getting up there again. It is up to $925 million. So it's possible we'll get another $1 billion jackpot that'll be won by somebody in California or Florida or the Midwest. Never happens in Maryland. That's why I don't buy tickets anymore. But hey, it still could happen. Birthday cake trail mix. Birthday cake flavors are everywhere now. And there's now a trail mix where it has a birthday cake flavor, which is kind of weird to me. Another teaser trailer for Fargo Season 5, due out November 21st, showed up, and nothing to really discuss about it, but it's up there. Peacemaker, Amanda Waller, Vigilante, and Blue Beetle are all going to be part of James Gunn's DCU. They've all been part of previous DCU movies that were not part of James Gunn's things, but these four will be part of his DCU from this going forward. Pumpkin spice cheesecake enchiladas with caramel drizzle is a new recipe I saw on Facebook. Looks absolutely stunning. I'm talking about Taylor again. A couple dressed up as Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce for Halloween in 2020. Now, obviously, the guy was a fan of Travis Kelce. His wife was a fan of, or girlfriend or whatever was a fan of Taylor Swift. So for a Halloween costume contest, they decided to be each other and go as a couple 3 years ago. I just find that kind of stuff kind of interesting. So that's kind of cool. Epic Games, which runs Fortnite, is running into some issues right now. They lost Donald Mustard, their creative guy, but hired a new creative guy. But now they have to reduce their workforce by 16%, which means they're going to have to lay off 830 employees, which kind of sucks. They say it will not affect Fortnite, but we'll see how that goes. The first teaser trailer for FX's feud, Capote versus Swans, made its appearance now. It stars Naomi Watts. I just wanted to mention it because it was Naomi Watts' birthday this week. One of the rarest whales in the world just spotted off the coast of Galveston, Texas. So that's kind of cool. A dolphin was spotted in the Baltimore Inner Harbor, which is odd because the Inner Harbor is usually trashy. But the fact that it seems to be getting cleaner with dolphins making their way in, that's actually a good sign that the Inner Harbor might be healing itself, which is good. Or we've been helping by having trash and stuff moved out. But a dolphin was spotted in the Inner Harbor, which I think is really cool. A 400-pound stingray was caught off the coast of Long Island, or not off the coast, but was caught in Long Island Sound. And this 400-pound stingray was massive. I mean, this sucker was huge. There's pictures of it all over. You probably find it. A Wyoming dinosaur that was excavated could be worth $1.2 million at a Paris auction. A Spanish-produced, Spanish-language Zorro Amazon Prime TV show released its first teaser trailer. Looks kind of interesting. It's great that a Mexican/Spanish company is doing this because it is a Mexican/Spanish hero. But that's just one of the multitude of Zorro products coming out here soon. Disney Plus has their own that's being produced by Wilmer Vanda, whatever his name is, from that 70s show. That one is still being worked on, but this trailer for the Amazon Prime one made its debut this week as well. U2 is settling into a Las Vegas residency at the iconic Sphere in Vegas and is the first band to play a concert at the Sphere, which, if you don't know, is a giant sphere that projects all kinds of pictures of different things. Like one of the ones I saw today was a snow globe. So you had a castle inside. It was in a globe, so it's already in the globe. So you just had a castle, and the snow was falling around it. And it's been like a giant eyeball, and it's been all kinds of crazy stuff. So U2 is going to be in residency at Las Vegas, and they played the first concert ever at the Sphere. Mick Jagger has hinted that the Rolling Stones may leave their $500 million album fortune to charity, which I think would be outstanding if they end up deciding to do that. They are getting older, and you really guess you can't take it with you, so you may as well give it to people who are going to need it. So $500 million can help a lot of people in different charities. So we'll see if that comes to fruition as well. This is why we can't have good things. The Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam is teaming up with the Pokemon group to create Pokemon Van Gogh pictures. Pokemon painted in the Van Gogh style or painted into Van Gogh's classic pictures. And the art is really nice looking. It's really cool. They're really neat. And in order to open the exhibit, they were going to offer a free limited edition Pokemon card Van Gogh sort of limited edition that is only limited to that museum. And in order to get it, you have to buy something. So the minute that was announced, all the scalpers who wanted to make a ton of money and have been taking all that stuff from Target and Walmart, all the Pokemon things, and buying them up and then selling them back for double, triple the price that they were asking for there. Flooded their registration, but it's like a Van Gogh Pikachu sort of plushie. Bought that to get the limited card, and they've turned around to sell the card for triple, quadruple its value. And people who wanted to just go to the event and buy it at the actual event can't, because they've all been sold out due to these scalpers. So kind of a piece of shit move that they did, the scalpers. It's not the Van Gogh Museum's fault. It's these goddamn scalpers' fault. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I think that's kind of a stupid ass thing to do. The Departed came out 17 years ago this week. The final episode of Breaking Bad came out 10 years ago this week. Hey, 10 years ago this month was it's not this month. In September was the beginning of this show. All right, so we're getting close to 2-hour window. We still got 2 full pages of stuff, so we're looking at a long-ass one. So let's get moving here, shall we? Naked woman chases Jehovah's Witness off her porch and down the street screaming, "Succumb to my devil vagina!" Magic. So, okay. Pretty cool. Some local news. Domino's Sugar Plant, which is iconic, has added new silos, which is going to increase capacity for the sugar being created at the Baltimore Inner Harbor. It is an iconic spot in the Baltimore Harbor, so it's kind of cool. Halloween dark chocolate milk is a thing. It was called Halloween dark chocolate milk. Stanley Tucci wants to open his own restaurant. I absolutely think you should let him, because he's a fantastic guy and a great cook. America's Got Talent, a TV show that's still going, crowned a dog a winner for the first time in a decade. Again, last time they did that, I had just started my show. What else here? Doritos Screaming Sriracha flavored chips are back in time for the holidays. Instead of carving a pumpkin, someone came up with a really neat idea. Instead of carving a pumpkin, what they do is they carve little holes where they want the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, lace it with peanut butter, and put it outside. Because squirrels love to munch on the pumpkins. It happened to us last year. My daughter carved a pumpkin. We put it out, and it got decimated by squirrels. So what you do then is, so you put these little holes and lace it with peanut butter. The squirrels will come and they'll chew out these holes and make them so big so they will actually carve a awful face. It's a scarier face than you could get if you carved it with a knife, because it's all disorienting and stuff like that because of the way that they were chewing at it. So give that a try and see what happens. That'd be kind of cool. A black and white skunk squirrel was spotted in Ohio. It's all black. There's all black squirrels. I saw them at my in-laws' house, but this one had a white tip on its tail, and it looks like a skunk. It looked like it was Photoshopped, but it actually isn't. So that's pretty cool. 16 million year old largest spider fossil was found in where else? Australia. And the first ever live electric blue colored tarantula was discovered in Thailand. It's a cool looking tarantula, though. Its legs got this sort of electric blue sort of coloring to it. It's really cool looking. It's not all electric blue, so don't freak yourself out. It looks like a regular tarantula, but it's got these little tinges of this electric blue that looks really, really cool. The Naughty 9 trailer, Disney's new holiday movie with Danny Glover as Santa Claus, had its first trailer out. It's about 9 kids that were on the naughty list, and they decide that they are going to pay back Santa for putting them on the naughty list, which is just reiterating why they're on the naughty list. But it's described as Ocean's 11, but going to the North Pole. And of course, obviously, what's going to happen is the kids will learn how to, the true meaning of Christmas and blah, blah, blah. So, but it looks like fun and looks like it should be entertaining, and it'll be great to watch. The annular solar eclipse on Saturday, October 14th, 2023, which will be seen mostly out in the Midwest, will shut down Navajo tribal parks due to cultural beliefs. I think that when they see the sun has that annular, which is that ring of fire sort of look to it, it's a sign that they can't do something or whatever. So they have to shut down their parks and stuff like that. So that's interesting. Buffalo Pepsi, people have decided that adding hot sauce to Pepsi and then mixing it up with a celery stick and rimming it with blue cheese is the new drink to drink at tailgates and stuff like that. So, ew. Kentucky Fried Oreos are now available at Kentucky Fried Chicken. It is fried in the same style as the Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it is an Oreo. Some more local news. Rash Field Plan 2 expansion has been approved and should start being built next fall at this time. Rash Field has been an area, downtown harbor, which has been multitude of things. Was a skating rink, was beach volleyball, was a soccer thing, all kinds of things, but they've never been able to figure out what to do with it. Now they finally are starting to figure out what they're going to do with it. The next wave of fixing it up is going to happen. So we're going to get that back here in the next couple of years, which is good. A 450-million-year-old Pacific lamprey, which is still around, by the way, has been on Earth longer than trees. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. If You Were the Last, the Anthony Mackie, Zoe Chow sci-fi rom-com had its debut at SXSW and got a lot of good reviews. It looks like it's going to be interesting sci-fi rom-com. This creative maps in Fortnite where you can create all kinds of maps. I talked about that last week. They did one which did a Hunger Games version. Well, another person did an Inception style one done in the style of this Christopher Nolan movie Inception, which looks outstanding when I was looking at it. Skittles celebration cake with Skittles on top and the flavors in the middle, but not the Skittles in the middle of the cake, is available, but only in the UK. The Obliterated trailer made its debut. I talked about this show last week, 2 weeks ago. It's a show on Netflix, which is about a crack armed forces team that goes into Las Vegas to deactivate a nuclear bomb, which would destroy Las Vegas and a good portion of the Midwest, or the Western Desert, and could cause major nuclear fallout and stuff like that. They find the bomb and they defuse it. And they're in Vegas. They save Vegas. They're heroes. They decide, let's live it up in Vegas. They get drunk. They get laid. They do drugs. They go crazy. They eat and stuff like that. And they wake up the next morning. They're all hungover or in pain or whatever due to stomach cramps and stuff like that. Get a phone call from the terrorists who said, actually, what you defused was our decoy. The real bomb is still set to go off later today. So you fucked up. You done fucked up. Try to see if you can stop us. Ha ha. So now this group of hungover people are going to have to do their job. It is a TV show from the creators of Cobra Kai that is due to arrive November 30th. Now, I don't know if you can really do much. I would say it more as a limited series instead of a show, because you really can't drag this out for multiple seasons or have them always get drunk and after a big event and then have to solve the big event. It just wouldn't be a feasible thing. So, but that is the first trailer for that has popped up. The House of Dolls trailer, which is Dee Wallace returning to horror and a knife-wielding maniac film, has come up. I didn't watch it because no interest in it. Bonnie Wright, who played Ginny in the Harry Potter movies, is now a mom. She gave birth to her first child. The trailer for Blue-Eyed Samurai, due out November 3rd on Netflix, an animated manga sort of series, debuted this week as well. Looks fantastic. Azrael, the Samara Weaving action film, is getting some behind-the-scenes pictures about that. Kristen Stewart has a gay ghost hunting show where she's bisexual and she goes out with a bunch of gay people and they go hunt ghosts, I guess. It's a reality show. Kind of cool. The Curse trailer from A24 and Showtime also came out this week. A24 is on a roll. It's a show. It's only going to be on Showtime. I didn't really pay attention because it didn't interest me, but there it is. Tomb Raider, The Legacy of Lara Croft animated Netflix series, had its first teaser trailer as well. Haley Atwell is going to be the voice of Lara Croft. It's due out in 2024, so you didn't get to see much, but you got to see some cool stuff. That was kind of neat. Am I missing anything here? No. A new 3D Super Mario game is rumored to be releasing in 2024 as an open world Super Mario game that is going to coincide with the potential also rumored Switch 2 console that's also due supposedly to come out next year. So these are all rumors right now of a open world Super Mario game, which sounds outstanding. The 3D Super Mario World was released when the original Switch was released, so it makes sense to do another version of it, but an open world one for the Switch 2 console. So we'll see if that all happens. Anniversaries this week: Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original one with Clarissa Explains It All, Melissa Joan Hart, came out in 1996 this week. I watched that show for a while. I enjoyed it. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out 10 years ago this week, which again came out a few weeks after I did my first show. I think one of my first list show with Jerry, which was the second episode I think I did of Dylan Knows, second or third one, was our top 10 things you're looking forward to in fall of 2013. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was on my top 10 because at the time it was more closely connected to the MCU than it turned out eventually to be. And finally, Zoolander came out 22 years ago this week. What's interesting about that is it was the first film to debut after 9/11, because it came out in 2001, came out September 27th, 28th, whatever. 2001 was the first movie to come out after 9/11. It had to, since it takes place in New York, it had to edit out pictures of the World Trade Center since it was filmed the year before when the World Trade Center was still there. I think that's anything for that. Okay. And finally, we got our last page. We're going to breeze through this, and then we are going to go home. India cannot wake up its moon lander. That was a story that was released earlier this week. I haven't heard of a follow-up yet. They had to put it to sleep due to a solar storm, something like that, and they have been unable to reawake it, but hopefully that'll get changed here soon. The Witch's Brew Kit Kat is coming back. It is a green chocolate. It's going to taste like regular chocolate, but it's green food coloring. Is coming out here. I'll do this one last along with the other one. So that one will be last. And I'll find the other one here. Miramax is looking for a new TV and movie partner for its Halloween series. A lot of people are saying that Halloween should go back to what its original intent was that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wanted to turn the Halloween movies into anthology movies, which would be a different story set on Halloween with different characters and different things. Didn't have a connection, but unfortunately, Michael Myers became so hugely popular that they could not do that. So, but now might be the best time to do that as well. That's another one I can do near the end. Office reboot is in the works with the original showrunner Greg Daniels involved with that. No one really asked for a reboot of The Office, and I don't know if this is the same as the all-female version of The Office. I don't know, but there is one there. A horror film called Ocean Deep released a trailer this week. Didn't show much about what it was, but it's about some sort of someone disappears in the water and is connected to government or whatever, something like that. Amazon is selling a Nightmare Before Christmas Village on Amazon. You know, the light up village type of thing. There's a Nightmare Before Christmas one now. Timber is the October Community Day, which I'm disappointed in because I was hoping for a ghost type since it's Halloween. The month is October or whatever. Timber's still a good Pokemon, and I'm happy for it to give it a Community Day, but I was really hoping for a ghost one. However, they are releasing a ticket for $5 that will release new research tasks every Thursday for the month of October, which will be about ghost types and stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to get that because ghost types are my favorite type of Pokemon. And I'll talk about this now. Homeless Florida woman was eaten by a 14-foot alligator in Tampa. She supposedly entered an area she wasn't supposed to, and the crocodile did what he did. It's a terrible story, but at the same time, you can't blame the alligator. It's what he does. The Japanese have created a movie called Love Shark. Yeah, not lying. That's the name of a movie. Absolutely crazy. Soulmates is a new movie that is being touted as Saw meets Tinder film, which means it's going to be a bonkers, like, dating horror film. So we'll see about that. Deep Fear is a new shark attack movie coming out later this year. True Detective Season 4 teaser due out January 14th with Jodie Foster. Debuted. It looks extra creepy, and it's set in Alaska, so that's kind of neat during the winter. So it's dark and snowy and ice, and it's about a killer who freezes his victims in the ice. Devil May Cry trailer from Netflix. Devil May Cry is the newest anime that Netflix will be having. The Nightmare trailer also has been released as well for AMC Plus. I don't know much about that. I didn't watch it. The Pluto trailer is also another anime film that's going to be released on Netflix on October 26th based on Astro Boy. M. Night Shyamalan's next film is called Good Grades that he's going to be working on. Again, keeping it close to the vest. We don't know what it's about, but it's obviously some sort of school sort of thing. Star Trek 4 is still in the works and still on track, so says certain people. So we'll see if that's actually going to be true. October 16th sees the release of Once Upon a Studio, which is a short film about Disney Studios, which is going to have over 541 Disney characters in it. The first trailer for that appeared. It looks cute, but again, it's just sort of a short film, probably only be about 10 minutes long, something like that. Scientists pull a new type of virus from the deepest spot in the ocean. It's like, why would you do something like that? But I don't know. Fingernail trailer sounds like a horror film, but it's not. It's a romantic drama about a company that works to try to solve what love is. And two of the people who work there fall in love with each other. So that's what you expected there. That's the other one to do then. May December trailer with Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore has finally been released. Mountain Dew Peach flavored Mountain Dew is set to come out 2024 as a Wawa exclusive. Jamie Lee Curtis is interested in a role in the live action One Piece season 2. I think I talked about that last week, but she's now actually shown true interest in it. Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy are getting their own makeups from Revolution Beauty, makeup kits from Revolution Beauty. We've been talking about, the Winnie the Pooh horror film and the Bambi horror film and the Grinch horror film, where they're taking beloved stories and turning them into horror films. We got two more for you. One is Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Death and Porridge is a horror film, obviously based in the Goldilocks and the Three Bears storyline. So we have that. And It's a Wonderful Knife, which is such a great name, released its first description of what the story is about. It's about a, what's the name of it? The sole survivor one. It's a specific name where, in horror films, you have the lone survivor, usually a woman, who defeated the serial killer creature, whatever, last girl or something like that. Anyway, It's a Wonderful Knife is about a last girl who defeated a serial killer and survived, and her life has not gotten any better after it happened. So she wishes that she was never born. And so, like, It's a Wonderful Life, they show her what would happen if she's never born, and the serial killer is going crazy, killing more and more people. So she has to help stop him again, sort of thing. That's the premise behind that. So it's an interesting idea, I guess. Anniversaries for the last stories of the week. Shaun of the Dead came out 19 years ago this week. The River Wild came out 29 years ago this week, speaking of Kevin Bacon. Monsters, REM's album from 1994 came out this week as well. Not one of my favorites, but it came out this week, and they were still high and mighty at that point. The Equalizer came out 9 years ago this week. That's the Denzel Washington movie. The Intern with the luscious Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro came out eight years ago. The wonderful, awesome TV show Sledgehammer came out in 1986 this week. And The Corpse Bride, Tim Burton's stop motion film, came out 18 years ago this week. Let's see if I'm missing anything else. Nope. The final two stories are sort of connected here. First up, and these are ones you really probably can't trust or whatever, but just bear with me. Ex-CIA pilot says that NASA landed men on Mars in 1966, and a former employee saw humans on Mars in 1979. Now, I've heard that story before about the humans in 1979. It was someone who was working at the Mariner project, which was the first landers. We landed on Mars, and this woman said she saw pictures of humans in spacesuits walking around, checking on it or doing whatever. And NASA told her not to worry about it, and they edited the film or whatever. And so she tried to be a whistleblower. It didn't quite work because the story really didn't come out, but it did come out. It's been a story that's been out and about for a few years now. And finally, are aliens eating humans in Arizona? Apparently, the new thing is now there's a top secret base where whistleblowers have said they've gone in and seen humans and aliens living harmoniously together. And they've spied aliens actually eating humans. I guess, since they're living harmoniously with humans, it would have to be possibly dead humans are being eaten by these aliens. Again, probably none of these are true, but it's always an interesting way to end this Taylor Swift effect episode of Dylan Knows. I've reached the end of one of my books, not the end, but the second part of my book. So 521 starts fresh with a new part here. We are now officially ensconced in October. So I've been talking so long, my throat's getting irritated. So here we go. That's it for today's episode, The Taylor Swift Effect. Thank you for watching, and I will let you know if the Taylor Swift effect actually worked and if I got a bunch of viewers more than I expected. I'm still going to post it on Facebook and Twitter and all that, so that'll help. And I do that anyway, but that'll help hopefully increase stuff. Next week, we'll see what happens. As I said, Loki season 2 pops up. The Exorcist movie comes out. My wife and I's 20th wedding anniversary is happening. And we're going to get through a little bit of a heat wave this week. Temperature's going to be as high as 80 in the middle of the week, but by the weekend, it's going to drop back down to the 60s. So as a high. So that's awesome. We should also begin to start seeing some of the fall leaves changing. And also we will be seeing more Halloween decorations put up and more Halloween stuff going around. So it is now officially, as I said, October 1st. It is spooky season. It is October, the best month of the year. And let's hope that it's the best month for everybody. So that's all I got for today. Thank you, Taylor Swift, for being who you are. And thank you. And hopefully you and Travis Kelce will get along and have a good time. We will see you later tonight, as everybody's going to be talking about you guys. So hopefully things are going to go good. Keep going it slow. Take it at your timetable. It's great. And thank you for watching the show. And we'll see you. It is now officially October, and I am stoked.